pretty good grappler, and they can be less technical going forward because there isn't that fear of somebody shooting underneath them in the same way. So you are going to be... It's like Pantoja, man. It's the same thing. That just goes forward, doesn't give a fuck, because it's like, what, the fight's going to go to the ground? Yes, that's my goal. That's the whole reason that I'm doing this shit.
Yeah. Although the other alternative is just sprawl and brawl and you just keep getting counted and counted, but
yeah,
so tough to do.
It's a bad night to be a hype train.
Yeah, I think the heavy-handed wrestler is like, if you were going to be a two-trick pony, that's what you would take.
Yeah. It was the only big hype train that really came out of this card looking as expected. Several other hype trains lost.
Yeah, but several other hype trains won. DDP, Pantoja, and I would put Volk in that category as well.
Volk's not a hype train.
No, but people had serious questions. They were like, yeah, he's better, but just stylistically, if anyone had a shot of like being lucky, it would be a guy like Yair.
That's not a hype train thing, though. That's just a stylistic conclusion. And Volk has shown himself, and he showed himself in the third round to be vulnerable to head kicks.
Yep.
Do you want to get into it? Should we just start?
Yeah, let's just go.
We can leave that maybe as a cold open. Hello, welcome back to the MMA Split podcast. Plenty to discuss on today's show. UFC 290, one of the biggest cards of the year, one of the best cards of the year, one of the best cards I've ever seen. Definitely the best card that we've seen in a few years. I mean, obviously 275 last year was pretty special. 281 had a lot of great moments, but this had the perfect epiphany of highlight moments, emotional moments, terrific fights, insane finishes, crazy performances. Really, it's only the main event that we don't have a huge script to talk about on this one.
Yeah, and Hermione Knock is just that one shitty crowd moment on the co-main, but well.
We'll discuss that. All the action that's happened at UFC 290, plenty to discuss. If there is a couple of fights on the prelims we end up skipping over too quickly, it is not our fault. And there's been some news as well. Big fight announcements, a couple from last week, a couple from the last few days. We'll be discussing all of it. And Conor McGregor. Is he going to fight? Is it going to be with USADA doing drug tests? We'll be discussing that as he goes 6-0 in the O section.
0-6.
0-6 is how you are meant to say that on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm your host, Matt, joined by host and producer Josh. I'm in a pretty good mood after that card, I'm not going to lie. I hope you guys are all in a good mood. I hope you're in such a good mood that you like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. That
I like those.
I know, trying to get better at this.
Organic.
It's hard when you're high. It's
I
hard.
very baked. When he was like, I'm very happy, I was thinking, yeah, I'm pretty baked too.
Yeah, it's a good day. It's a beautiful day, in fact, after a beautiful weekend of fights.
Let's be real, you're pretty baked too, so...
Yeah, probably if you're watching us.
And
we appreciate you watching us.
Just throw out a like.
You could be spending your time doing anything and you're watching two guys that never competed in the sport professionally give their thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
We've had amateur fights. Just not licensed amateur fights. If you count your street fights, you've got more experience than half the roster.
No, I can't. That's just me getting my fucking ass whipped.
Either way, let's crack on. Let's start with the main event, which we're probably going to have the least to say about, because it's one of the few things on this card that went close to how we expected. Only real surprise from my point of view, I thought I'd see a bit more from Rodriguez. I'm not saying Volkanovski didn't make him look like he didn't belong in there, because obviously that's Volkanovski's good work. But it kind of felt like, particularly the first two rounds, he felt very shy. The takedown in the first round happened very quickly. He did not set that kick up well at all. He seemed nervous.
I think he had more faith in his jiu-jitsu going into the fight. Like, up until that point, I think he thought, wherever the chips fall, I'm going to come out pretty good on this one. So
possible.
And I mean, frankly, like, you're not Ortega, bro, and even Ortega, you know, he had that one close moment, but Jesus.
Yeah.
And then Volk isn't necessarily Jesus, but maybe. I mean, I'm not Catholic, but
It just kind of felt like I don't know if he had way too much respect for Volk, and I have no issue with guys having respect for their opponent outside the octagon, but it felt like you had two guys that were respectful of each other. One of those guys kept that respect when he stepped into the octagon. The other guy put it to one side and said, "I'm here to show who I am."
also, like, as much as he did kind of take a risk with like how he managed the distance, Volk did play quite a clever game and been able to like bait out enough movement and kind of responses from Yair that he felt comfortable enough, and even taking it all the way to like the third round, like he'd really kind of started to kind of close that and bait those kicks. When that head kick came, that was a huge fucking risk. But the way that Volk counters, follows up, and then even just like knowing that it's Yair and that he's done, like I'm just going to dump him down and I'm going to finish him with the ground and pound because I just don't want to take any more risks after that head kick. It was just about getting the entry. Once he got inside, like at the right moment, knowing that Yair was tired, he like it was more than just like a shark in the water. It was just like presence in the fucking moment. It was more than predatory. It was like he specifically game planned to finish him that violently and that efficiently.
Well, I think what was very clear is there was a big game plan of put Yair in a position where he's not going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
That was a huge focus.
Yeah.
There's so many, I mean, listen, we're not technical experts, but there's so many little things that Volkanovski does that even I'm able to appreciate on a first viewing. You know, the stance switching in order to close space, constantly changing the angles, not letting Yair be the one changing angles, giving you the southpaw look, setting up different kicks, crowding him, pressuring him, but without ever rushing in at the same time.
Yeah. Feinting from certain distances, just everything like on that first step was just so intelligent.
I just kind of feel like Yair came out of round 2 thinking, I'm watching myself lose this fight without even getting a foothold in it. And then in round 3, I thought he was doing really well, but he was also fighting like a guy that, what's the analogy I can use? It's like a guy that's frozen at the start of a race, and now he's trying to go straight into his final end sprint speed in order to try and catch up and make up for it, and is always just going to end up getting himself in trouble. Like, Volk timed that right hook he catches him with really well, but I don't think Yair gets caught with that hook in round 1. I think he felt like there was a desperation of, oh my god, I've actually got to get started, let's just fucking throw everything. Some of the hooks he was charging in with after he threw kicks were really wild. He was reaching. And I don't know, it just felt like he was a guy that kind of beat him. You know, you've got to be on your best day to fight Volkanovski.
Yeah.
And it felt like he'd let himself be a little beaten by him before he's even stepped in. And it's like, man, you know, you've got to, if you're already letting yourself freeze and stutter and not flow, you know, particularly your star, man, it's like you were never going to win that fight on decision, in all fairness. It was always going to be that you had to start fast, you had to be explosive straight away, you had to give him loads of different stuff to think about. Doesn't mean you sprint out the blocks, but it means that you set that precedent of, I'm starting aggressive, I'm not letting...
You had to keep him honest to keep the fight at distance and at a slow enough pace that you could set up your shots. And ultimately, you really had to kind of wear on his defense. You know, if you're throwing head kicks when he's too close, he can only block them, and that fucks your arms up. You know, it's just a more aggressive stance was what was needed. And you know,
and then you do it in round 3, and you go overly aggressive, and the combination you're charging in when you get caught with that right hook, it's like, man, there's what, a minute left in a round that you've clearly been winning.
This is the thing,
Volk took. If you didn't pressure Volk at that point, look at his movement. He'd given that round away. He was looking at it going, okay, I'm just going to stay defensive. I'll hit him something hard with if he charges forward and acts like an idiot, but I'm not gonna.
Well, that's
I'm not looking
reading
to
him.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's the thing. Like Yair knows that Volk's gonna get better as he goes. It's gonna be harder to finish him as it goes, he's going to be taking a sharper beat on your movement and countering you as it goes on. So once you get to round 3, I'm Yair. I'm really thinking the onus is on trying to finish it this round, because round 4 is not going to be my friend. That's going to be his friend. He has a very high functional fight IQ. He really does fucking break people down very quickly. And Yair just he took a risk. Yeah, if he just kind of gone a little slower, totally different fight. But I don't disagree with that kind of mentality going into that moment, because I think against a guy like Volkanovski, you didn't want to let the fight keep going on and on.
Do you think Yair was slightly disserviced by the way that the Ortega fight went? And I know that Ortega's not the same type of fighter as Volkanovski in any stretch. But he fought Max and he lost. And he lost despite looking a lot sharper on the feet, because eventually Max was just able to get clinches and take him down and control him. His next fight after that is Brian Ortega. And Brian Ortega's shoulder pops out with the first kind of armbar attempt he threw, after the fight ending up in the ground. So we have kind of 2 fights in a row where we don't see him have to really do anything crazy to get out of this position. And then he has the Emmett fight, where I think Emmett slugged his way to get that interim title shot. But I don't think in terms of his ability as a fighter, you would say that he is a title contending level fighter when you think how deep this division is. You know, a lot of people think he lost to Keita. A lot of people think he lost to Dan Ige. Couple of those fights, you know what I mean, don't go that certain way. If he had a couple of different opponents on his way up, he might not have got that.
You can certainly argue the point. It's
this was a big step for Yair, is the point I'm making. From
Yeah.
Emmett to Volk is, I mean, it's such a difference in understanding and intellect and ability and mentality and maybe not power, but everything else that comes into it. Oh, and there's still power there. That's still something you have to worry about with Volk. Beast, man.
Yeah.
Beast on the card. And
At the same time, though, I don't think he cared one iota. He was just like, I need my fucking title shot. It's just, unfortunately, look, we all know how fucking good Max Holloway is. Volkanovski's just a slight bit ahead. It's just a terrible time to be fighting at 145 in the UFC.
I think a different Yair, couple more years of experience, that could be a more interesting fight. He needs to work on the wrestling.
Yeah.
You can't, like, I think we're beyond the point, like, even Oliveira is finding that there might be a guy in the division where you can't just trust that your jiu-jitsu is that good off your back and everything's going to be fine. I would definitely say that I think mentality comes into it. Like, Volk hurt his hand in this fight. And it's almost certain that he hurt his hand because he blocks kicks with one hand. He doesn't two-hand block kicks. That will be something that could end up being his demise. And Yair, on paper, is the type of fighter that has every ability to deliver that. And we saw glimpses in that third round of what the challenges for Volk could have been more consistently. It's just a shame that after a night of some spectacular performances and spectacular fights, we did just get a great performance rather than a great fight out of that main event.
Yeah. At the same time, when you have a dominant champ, you don't always get back-to-back great performances. There's a few exceptions, but Silva, GSP, you know, they had some lackluster fights.
This was a great performance.
Yeah, I love it.
It just wasn't.
It feels like it's like Ronda Rousey at her peak. Do you know what I mean? Every time Volk fights, it's fucking lights out. I love it.
It's just, you know, the way that card was shaping up as we're about to talk. It just kind of felt like maybe we're going to get a main event. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've already had 2 Fight of the Year contenders in the last 3 fights that we've watched. It's now the main event. And you're thinking, fuck, if there's ever going to be a fight that's going to take us to that, like, perfect ending. Great fight and a great card.
You know who jinxed it?
Who?
The fucking Las Vegas crowd. Fucking pricks.
Well, do you want to talk about the co-main event?
Yeah.
Do you want to give Pantoja his flowers?
Yeah.
We picked Pantoja unofficially because we don't do official picks, but we kind of. I
was kind of leaning Moreno.
I was leaning Pantoja, but we both agreed this was pretty close.
And it basically happened exactly how we thought it would. This is not the same guy that Pantoja fought before.
Yeah, and Pantoja's not the same guy that Moreno fought before. Pantoja's not the same guy that lost to Figueiredo.
This was two fucking legends going at it. Man, this is a treat.
It's weird though that a fight that ended up with a pretty clear, apart from one judge who's an idiot, but a pretty clear 4-1 scorecard to Pantoja could be as exhilarating and exciting as it was. But the fatigue of Pantoja after round 2, the fact that he was just going forward, eating punches, you always felt like Moreno just needed.
Yeah.
In those last 2 rounds, he just needed a little bit of... He needed 40 seconds on the feet and like 1 or 2 fought-off takedowns that kind of sapped Pantoja a little bit and bought him some striking time. And he could have got him out there. But Pantoja, who realised after round 2, like, I'm fucked. I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. It's all going wrong. He's stuffing the takedowns. What do I need to do? I need to fucking get this fight to the ground. I don't care how I need to do it, but I either need to be all the way out or I need to be on him like that and getting him on his backside.
Well, the other thing is he knew from the first round that Moreno was pacing himself very deliberately. So, like, Pantoja knew that, like, if he just threw, like, the fucking kitchen sink at him occasionally, he was going to catch him at a bit of a trot while he was going full fucking gallop. And that really was what it was. Just, even when he could take him down and had the control time and was doing the damage and throwing him the subs and, like, trying to sink in the rear naked choke, even though Moreno was able to reverse these positions and get, like, some grace back and keep the rounds close, like, those rounds are Pantoja's. Like 1, 3, 5. And to be fair to Derek Cleary, like, he's come out and said it before. He kind of weights damage like more heavily than anything else. So you kind of know Cleary's like susceptible to those kind of closer rounds. He did land some good shots in the 5th. I didn't agree. It was Pantoja's fight. Split decision. I agree with you. Probably a bit unfair. But Cleary's pretty consistent with it. Give him that much at least. And he does come out and talk about it more than most judges.
It's weird though. In many ways, I still feel Brandon Moreno's a better fighter than Pantoja. But Pantoja just made a decision that he was willing to walk through fucking fire.
Well, you put it this way, I'll probably pick Moreno again in the rematch. But, yeah, Pantoja fucking won this fight. Rounds 1, 3, 5. That was some fucking hard as nails, veteran Safi, like laser focused fucking moments, key moments in the fight that really fucking... What a champion already.
Also,
2 more fights. I want a proper quad.
It takes something mentally. You talk about Moreno pacing himself. I think it takes something mentally to be willing to sprint to the point of exhaustion and know that the sacrifice of that is you're going to have a period where you're going to feel fucking done. And if you're in the wrong position, it's over. Like, you've already eaten a lot of shit. This guy, if he stuffs that takedown that you fire as the desperation shot, if he reverses the position right after you've burned everything and you need to have a break point, it's over. And he was willing to do that at numerous occasions in round 3, round 4, and round 5 in order to grit his way through this win.
Yeah.
It's not the type of performance that I think he can realistically give as a champion. I think that's the kind of performance you can get out of yourself when you're chasing up to the top. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. He's never been finished.
That's pretty impressive.
He's never been finished.
He's got some darkness in him.
It all just kind of tracks, you know?
He's got some darkness in him.
This guy is a great fucking fighter. He's going to be a great champion. They're going to do the rematch. And if Moreno wins, I hope they do a real 4. I don't care.
Do you want to see an immediate rematch though, or do you want to see maybe like a...
Not immediate rematch for me, please. I can't imagine a better fight.
Moreno's career is so much fun.
Yep.
Even the fights he loses. Like,
Yeah.
he's got... Look at the number of
How can
awesome...
the rematch be bad?
Also, look, what other fighter has got, like, awesome fucking sequences or trilogies or series of fights with multiple people, all of whom he's fought at least once at the belt's championship level? Kai Kara France twice. Pantoja 3 times if you count tough.
I don't.
Figgy 4 times. There's no reason to think we're not going to get a second Brandon Royval fight if you look at the way that Royval's going through. I mean, this guy's entire career, and this is what makes it so much
Plus,
fun.
that fight was was it a collarbone or a shoulder for Royval?
Yeah, he did.
We were robbed, you know. It was. I'd love that fight, but I want 2 more first.
I know.
Or at least 1 more first, but I need 2 more in my life.
Flyweight's so much fun.
It doesn't disappoint in the same way that, say, heavyweight does.
But it doesn't.
You get way more fights. You get way more better fights. You get much deeper division. And we'll talk
also,
about it
sometimes
later,
you just get a good run. Like, the rivalries we've got, because there's not that many people at flyweight. There's
even all the way back in the day, man. Fucking Mighty Mouse Dodson, Mighty Mouse Benavidez, like, those were good fights. Those were really good fights.
Also, a lot of these guys all fight each other again. Because it's not like, you know what I mean? We haven't got like a whole stack of unranked flyweights that can easily be cycled into the top 15 and other guys cycled out. It's a lot of ranked guys fighting other ranked guys and kind of trading their spot in the top 15. So it leaves a lot of room for some good trilogies, even more. But I don't know. I mean, both guys ate a lot of damage. I don't think if they do a rematch, they're going to do it quick. But you couldn't say no. I mean, you're going to be entertained. You're going to be entertained.
I think early next year is absolutely fine for me.
Moreno needs to work on his takedown defense, though.
It wasn't too bad. I think mostly it was more kind of the way he sharpened up his boxing game, specifically for Figgy, means he kind of gets inside a lot easier, and it just kind of means that sprawl, it's just so much tougher to really defend. And then once he gets backed up to the cage, it's so difficult to rest against the guy like Pantoja. And at the same time, he's too smart in his grappling to take stupid risks. And it's like, well, frankly, you just need to not get into that position at all. So what he really needs to do is kind of look to counter more than kind of like push forward as much as he does. When he pushes forwards, it's great, but he needs to try and finish with his, his own clinch or takedown, just to try and like establish some top control and some damage before kind of leaving, because he is very effective in that position against Pantoja. It's still very risky, but like he was effective enough. Once he reversed positions, he looked pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Awesome fight though. Fair play, Pantoja. Yep. Brazil has a champion once again.
It's insane that we have other fights to talk about. It's almost like it's the only one I want to talk about. We just talk about how fucking bullshit it was that Pantoja's getting booed while he's getting his fucking strap. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, the problem is it was literally a whole Mexican fucking loving night. A lot of Mexican fans did not take well to their boy losing. Particularly because, they haven't seen him defend. But, he's been a champion twice now, and both times he's lost on the first defense. Which is hard, you get all the motivation and excitement, and then it's upsetting. And it's also upsetting because a lot of the real fans there will know that he's losing to a guy he's already lost to twice. Makes the narrative for a rematch maybe a little bit harder for people. They think the road back's going to be more difficult.
Well, I think Dana White's very keen on it.
He should be. It was a fucking great fight.
You were just... Yeah, the way the fans are thinking before they know Dana White's saying, "Oh, my bad."
Yeah, and then I also think...
Wait, no, don't excuse them. No, fuck them. Fuck them.
I think Pantoja did kind of... He's been viewed as the villain a little bit throughout this whole sort of saga and the build-up. And I think it's because everyone just really likes Moreno and thinks he's a nice guy. But there is something a bit dark about Pantoja, and you feel bad for him because he's had a hard life. He talks about like how much it means, like his wife means to him, and how supportive she's been, and how this is for his family. And then he mentions his mum, and then at the end, he goes, "Are you proud of me now, Dad?" And not in like a, "Oh, my dad's watching, I hope I've made him proud." In a like a, wow, that sounds like a guy that wasn't really there for you. And you clearly used that bitterness and resentment. And that's been a factor that's driven you to this moment. And yeah, you want to get some fucking respect from the crowd. Moreno respects you. You're getting respect from him. The person you've actually taken the belt from isn't fucking booing you. He's the one that's actually lost.
Well, they're both fucking legends. It's exactly what you expect from Moreno. Yeah, it was very upsetting for me watching the crowd boo him. I'm very glad that he put in that one hell of a performance. I understand that like finishing up in a backpack position is not the most exciting ending, but it was still a fucking amazing fight. Like a truly fucking amazing fight. Cannot believe they booed him.
It's been a rough night for the crowd, dude. It was not a good night for Mexico. They had Yair lose, Brandon lose, Yasmin Yaragui lose, Robert Whittaker lose, who I know isn't Mexican, but everyone loves Rob Whittaker. We love Rob Whittaker.
Was Charas Mexican? Fuck.
I think Aguilar won. Was Aguilar Mexican?
To the homework we should have done earlier. My favourite part was when they checked their phones.
I know. Any chance you can edit this out, or is that too much to ask?
Pretty baked, Matt. Plus,
yeah, I respect your honesty.
I think deep down people like it when we expose our soft underbellies.
I don't know if it's about underbellies. I think we just have to accept that if somebody's really still watching us after 15 minutes of video time, they're probably with us for the run.
Yeah, or you fell asleep.
Jesus Aguilar is from... the flyweight division. Yes, obviously.
That was helpful. Well, Charas is Mexican. Charas was Mexican.
Charas?
Yeah, Edgar Charas, the Tatsuro Tara fight.
Yeah, so basically all the Mexicans lost.
Yeah.
All the Mexicans lost. Whittaker lost as well. Let's talk about Whittaker first. I can't... You know what I think it is, man?
I want to talk about it, to be honest.
Crazy theory. And it's partly infused by the fact that I'm getting back into, as you know, my ancient Roman history and all this kind of stuff. I think the ancient Roman gods are real. I think those are the real gods. And I think they're petty bastards that really enjoy MMA. The MMA gods are, in fact, the Roman gods. And they have a sick sense of humour, but more than anything, they watch us all like it's a play for their entertainment. So they want to see... Sometimes they'll take the storylines that they know we want away from us. But they'll put in the storylines. They'll make the storylines happen that they want. And clearly they want to see the Safa versus the derogatory term that used to be used in South Africa to describe a black person that will not be said on the show. Clearly that was the title fight they wanted to see.
Roman gods.
Roman gods.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot parch pole. Look.
This was by the will of Jupiter.
No, it's Rob's been in some wars. He's burned out before. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great, and it was just frankly, he should have been looking to finish more with the head kick on the combinations, or getting all the way in and trying to chase a single leg or something and tucking his chin a little bit more. DDP set it up quite well. It was a great shot. Rob, he's got power. That was a right.
It's a jab.
It was a right hand.
It's a right jab.
It was a fucking solid right, though.
It's a jab.
No, it was a great shot.
It was a good shot, but it was a good jab.
He's got power in his hands. Unfortunately, Rob wasn't even close to recovering. Great finish from Duplessis.
I feel like the finish does deserve some credit, because he pretty much hit Rob with every single follow-up shot.
Well, frankly, it was a good fight from DDP. He won the first round. Wasn't winning the second, but obviously it didn't matter. Like, it was just a very good fight from him. I think Izzy chews him alive, but you got that kind of power in your hands. You've always got a puncher's chance.
See, it's
not in the same way that Poatan did, by the way. Like,
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but he's stronger than Poatan in other areas, which I think makes that fight particularly interesting. I don't know. Do you know what I think it is, dude? I think DDP is just awkward, but he's awkward at the same time as being slightly more technical than people give him credit for.
Yeah,
definitely a little bit smarter.
I know, it was a good read. He set it up well. It was nice. It was very nice.
But because he's awkward, it's hard to see that he's picking. Like, there's things that he does that a really well technically trained kickboxer or boxer or karate fighter just won't do. And that makes things unpredictable. I gotta be honest though, I've heard a lot of people saying like, oh, Rob didn't look that great. Up until he got taken down at the end of round 1, I thought Rob looked pretty good.
No, he looked pretty good, but he didn't look great. And that's the thing, like, Rob generally looks great.
True.
I can only think of a handful of times he didn't. It's like kind of the first Izzy fight and this fight, really.
Well, DDP gets it done. No one picked him. I mean, no one was picking him to win this fight. We didn't think he had a chance.
I thought that awkward style, if anything, was just going to open things up a little bit more for Rob, but and all credit to Duplessis.
Okay, so we have the fight. We get to after the fight, and
how did you feel about this?
It couldn't have. Well, for starters, my feelings on this whole.
I'm going to light my joint. You go. I'll let rip. You let rip.
My feelings on this whole situation with the African champion thing, I feel I've made quite clear at the beginning. I felt like DDP did not deserve to eat any shit for what he said. I don't think what he said is any different from Leon Edwards saying that him winning the belt and bringing it to the UK would be him being a real, Michael Bisping, yes, he's from England and he won the belt, but he went to California to win it. I'm going to be the guy that brings it back to England. Yep. No one gave him any shit for that. When they had the first Mexican-born champion, nobody said, like, you know what I mean? It was everyone was happy to say Cain Velasquez was a Mexican champion. Gastelum is a Mexican.
He only has brown pride, right fucking there.
Yeah, but obviously once it's a Mexican-born champion, everyone was happy to run with that narrative. Oh yeah, but he actually trains in Mexico. That's no different from what Duplessis said. He's 100% right. He didn't say that Adesanya and Usman aren't from Nigeria, but what he pointed out is that when Usman won his welterweight belt, he won that belt with an American flag flying under his name. He adopted the Nigerian flag once he was already a champion. Adesanya was given the title shot on the whole basis being the idea of, we can have a Kiwi versus the Aussie, so we'll get the Kiwi who's kind of shooting up the ranks in an interim title shot, and if he wins that, we've got this whole Australia versus New Zealand narrative that he was happy to lean into. Same thing, it wasn't a Nigerian flag when he fought Rob the first time, it was a New Zealand flag that he fought under. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. It's literally tattooed on his chest as the broken native. I completely accept that people can feel like they're from two different places. You can ancestrally be from one place and grow up in another place, and obviously this can make people feel. But some of the nothing that Duplessis said was racist.
And everything that one wayward meme had something on it.
His coach said some stuff about he's a real African, but he was talking more about he's got an African passport and he actually lives in Africa, which again is all true. But it's all the racist shit's come from the other side.
Oh yeah, this was pretty ugly.
And listen, I'm not saying, okay, we know that white South Africans are racist, okay? I'm sure that the family members, either Duplessis' older generation or people that his parents knew, I'm sure there were a lot of fucking racist bastards. In the same way as if you were growing up in Germany in the fucking 60s, you probably had a lot of children that were the children of fucking Nazis and people that accepted the Nazis. But guess what? You don't blame the fucking kids. Like, the sins of the father don't go down. Drickus has not displayed himself to be a racist. They bring Izzy into the cage after he's called him a cracker and all sorts of fucking shit online, said he's going to drag Duplessis' carcass across Africa. And he comes in just at the point that Duplessis is giving one of the most respectful post-fight interviews, all about how much it means to him to fight Rob and how he's had his poster on his wall and he's such an honourable man and a
it
respectful
fucking should,
man.
man. Like, Whitaker's like that's a huge fucking scalp. Like, you could feel it.
Huge scalp,
You could
dude.
feel how much it meant to him.
It's a huge scalp. And the fact that they bring Izzy in, and Izzy behaves the way that he does, interrupting a post-fight interview, where all Drickus is doing is trying to give full props to the person he's just fought and beat. And instead of him being able to have another moment with Rob, they've had to run Rob out the cage to bring Izzy in, who then, some say drunkenly, Izzy says not, ends up throwing like 20 N-bombs at the guy. Being like, hey, my brother, my N-bomb brother.
So, like, he fucked up the 23andMe thing. What number did he throw out first?
He did 36 and me, then 26 and me. Which again is just like, dude, man, if you flip the script on this, like, imagine if we were in, like, this was in America and it was a black African American standing there, and you had a white champ being like, we'll do a 23 on you, see where your DNA comes from. You know what I mean? This would be fucking disgraceful shit. And what if it turns out, imagine if they did that and it turns out that, like, Drickus was like 48% like fucking sub-Saharan African just from hundreds of years ago.
I don't know, probably mostly Dutch or Flemish or something, but
it's not as
it
Drickus...
doesn't matter though. It's like, it's just like, I really wish Izzy wasn't pushing this narrative. Fuck what Izzy's saying though. I think it'd be a good fight.
It's a great fight.
I think
stylistically it's a good fight.
He's got that opportunity to kind of like change it with one shot. It's just that I think Izzy would and should probably end up schooling him.
It won't be a boring fight. Drickus will force action. Izzy will be forced to counter. My danger is this. They're messing with... I think Izzy is slightly playing this up because he wants to have a rivalry that he can sell that isn't fight Pereira a third time. Or fight Rob for a third time. And so I think...
I don't think either of those are ever going to happen.
Well, the Rob one's looking less likely now. But people are going to ask for those fights, and he's going to be called a pussy and a coward if he doesn't look like he's willing to take those kind of fights.
Do you think Partan comes back down to 185 at any point?
No, I think Izzy moves up. I think he moves up because it's a no-risk trilogy. Even if he loses, he's not losing his belt, and he can say, well, I fought the guy outside of my weight class. And if he wins, he gets all the more glory. But either way, I think he doesn't want people to be talking about a third Poatan fight. He has this guy that gave him just enough fuel for him to be able to explode and force this narrative. He's going to be able to sell this fight. I'm not saying that he wasn't like a little bothered by it, but I just don't... And I'm not saying he couldn't have been a little offended, but I think Izzy's the kind of person that he'll see something he can use as a catalyst, and he'll allow it to actually bother him as a form of motivation. And my worry with this is Izzy is messing with forces way darker and more powerful than he understands. When you try and mess with racism and the conversation about racism to somebody who grew up in post-apartheid South Africa, you are dealing with a very delicate subject, and one that you might think you have an understanding of, having been born in Nigeria and grow up in New Zealand, where I'm sure you did experience some racism, but you don't understand what the fucking political history, the economic... There's a lot of shit that goes into this that I think Izzy will find will not have people be on his side. And what's interesting is that he's not been getting any props. Like, all the props went to Duplessis in terms of the social media response, the general word of mouth. Like, Izzy's the one who looks like a bit of a tit, and Duplessis is the one who comes out afterwards in his, interviews when he's got a suit in the post-fight presser, saying, can you believe that? That's not how a champion conducts himself. That's how a clown conducts himself. when I'm champion, I will not be engaging myself in such petty and disgraceful behaviour. You're meant to be a role model. So he's doing everything exactly right. I felt he almost slipped though when he said, and it's still a good line, he was just like, you might be African, but you're no brother of mine. Even that, I was like, dude. And Ariel Helwani can take something like that and he can insert a whole bunch of racist undertones. Like, even that might just be giving a bit of room for people to come at you.
Well, there'll be a big old build-up. There'll be plenty more to talk about as far as that's concerned.
UFC 293, or you think they try and push this one back so they can hype it a bit more?
Nah, I think they understand that DDP's not going to sell like in a huge way, like the longer they push it back. I think it's like capitalised now while you feel like there's some heat, The sooner they can do it, I think they will.
Which build-up will be darker, DDP or Sean Strickland?
Probably DDP. I feel like Sean Strickland's mellowing out.
Went on Joe Rogan.
He did, I haven't listened to it.
I've only seen a couple of clips, but it is interesting hearing him talk about things. It was definitely, he's more reserved than when he does the press conferences where he says women should be have the vote taken away from them.
I just remember when we did the Sam Alvey interview. Go watch the Sam Alvey interview. And, Sam was talking about how he had a couple of training partners that were starting to stick. And Sam was kind of saying in the way that, they're just, tough guys. But I was kind of wondering, is he mellowing out? Is he mellowing out? I can't get the fucking word.
I feel he'd dial it back up if he got a title shot against Izzy. I feel that would bring the worst of Sean Strickland out. But it'd be really
it might bring out the best pressers. But I think overall, the guy's starting to really kind of fucking hit his groove.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what I still think might have been fight of the night, even though Pantoja versus Moreno was a fucking insane fight. Pardon me, got the hiccups. Dan Hooker. 7 minutes into that fight, if I paused it after he ate the second head kick in the second round, the first one that rocked him, and then he ate it again and kind of seemed to survive the second one a bit better. If I'd paused that fight for you and said Dan Hooker's going to win this fight on the scorecards, not like he gets one lucky punch and gets the finish, like he is going to dig down deep.
After another nasty head kick. Find a way to win the round that you're watching. Like, you've watched this man get his ass kicked for 3 minutes. And I'm telling you that he is going to win that round. Basically, I think that rear naked choke he sunk in, I was watching the fight and thinking he's not going to go for the choke because he thinks there's only 10 seconds left. And then he went for it and I was like, that's exactly what you needed to do. Because you've just won that round on the basis that he was going to sleep if there wasn't another 6 seconds. If you don't have that choke, a lot of judges might say, Turner's still got more damage overall. It's the sort of moment that turns a 10-9 to a 10-8. It's significant.
Seriously significant. And then third round, it was just about gritting deep, man. With a broken hand. Broken arm.
Yeah.
Broken arm. Now, I've seen people say that, and then it turns out it's like a hairline fracture or something, which is still fucking impressive. His is a full-on
I saw
fucking...
the X-ray, yeah.
Oh. You gotta love this guy, man. He might not be the most technical fighter. Just a scratch. But god damn it. He dug in. The Weasel made a interesting but sad point that I think is worth discussing. He said, that was incredible. That might have been the last time, Dan Hooker's had taken so many fights where he's taken huge damage. Is that the last one we was able to kind of just wade through and take the damage and find a way to outman the other guy?
Whether it is or it isn't, that's number 12 fighting number 11. He's not climbing the mountain again. How many more times do we need to see it? I don't want to see him go for another war. I respect him too much as an athlete, as a person. But I'd never fucking tell him to retire. I just hope that from here on out he just gets first round finishes.
It's hard though because it kind of looks like anything above the top 10 he can only beat if he just absolutely fucking spills his guts all over the ground to do it.
Yeah, I mean, fucking even the Barbosa fight that he lost, like, Jesus Christ.
It's good to see though, because I mean, I was hearing a lot of people say online, Dustin Poirier took this man's soul. He fought Poirier. He tried to outman Poirier. That's like about as dumb as trying to outman Gaethje. It's like there are two guys that you just can't out-tough in this division, and you tried to out-tough one of them and suffered for 5 rounds as a result. He's shown that he can still take it. Jalen Turner looked fucking sensational in the first round. I mean, he was so much faster. He was so much crisper.
Great fighter, but I don't doubt Dan Hooker. I still respect Dan Hooker.
Rocking a different look. How did you feel about the blonde hair and the leg sleeve tattoos?
Yeah, like the tattoos, don't really care about the hair. He said he wanted to see it pink, he got that, so good for him.
Did you see the photo of them after the fight?
No.
Photo of them after the fight. Dan Hooker's kind of been stitched up, he's a bit more swollen up. It's one of those hilarious things where you see a photo, one guy just looks completely normal. Other guy, fucking hair's pink, eyes swollen up, stitches everywhere. You tell just somebody who hasn't watched the fight, oh, that's the guy that won.
Yeah.
It doesn't make much sense. Right, should we talk about some of these ridiculous first round finishes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
Which was your favourite between Bo Nickal's 38-second knockout, Robbie Lawler's 38-second knockout, Denise Gomez sending Hype Train Yaragui to the Shadow Realm in 19 seconds, or Aguilar's one-punch overhand right KO in 17 seconds?
My favourites in this order were Lawler, Nickel, Gomes, and then Aguilar. But they were all great.
Do you want to talk about Lawler's first?
Oh, absolutely.
Is this the greatest retirement of all time?
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Did Machida actually retire after kicking out... oh my god.
Randy Couture?
Yeah. After kicking out Randy Couture's tooth. Or did he come back after that one? He came back. He came back. No.
He came back and he fought in Bellator. Couture retired.
Well, I'm not going to consider that the best retirement.
No.
Yeah, I mate, it's up there. It's up there. Definitely up there. And like we talked about it last week, and I said I really hope he can pull the trigger. You know, he did.
Pulled the fucking trigger, man.
Yup.
I almost felt a little bit bad for the whole build up. I thought was great. I thought he was given the right respect, including him on the press conference. I think was a really good idea. The crowd were perfect, and all you're hoping is don't let this be like Frankie Edgar. Don't let this be like Shogun. Don't let this look like a middle-ranked, middle-tier young fighter that never would have stood a chance with you.
Well, let's be honest. Ultimately, there's a reason this wasn't included on the pay-per-view. Like, this would sell as much, probably, as a Bo Nickel fight on the pay-per-view. Like,
but there was
ultimately,
a
the way
worry.
it pushes those slight extra numbers, it's just... Is he going to pull the trigger? Is this going to be what we want it to be? We've got this whole fucking thing planned afterwards. Is it better to just, like, have it in the prelims and just have it be, like, a beautiful fucking touching moment?
And he looks... I mean, he walks out to the theme score from Last of the Mohicans. I mean, doesn't that just say it all, man? He is. He's the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, dude, like, when, like... Early days, like, UFC, like, double figures.
Yeah, 1999 he went pro.
Like, fucking, I think Nick Diaz was, like, his third UFC fight.
Third or fourth. And then he left, was in Elite XC.
Yeah.
Strike Force. Then back in the UFC. Wins the belt. Has one of the craziest title runs of all time. In 3 of the greatest title fights of all time. having some of the most iconic UFC MMA moments of all time, has been nothing but a gentleman. A psycho gentleman that you think might murder you in like a very quiet, unsettling kind of way.
No,
But a gentleman all the rest.
He hasn't got that like sociopathic thing. He seems so fucking chill that you can't like really kind of connect that with the same guy that like, you know, Lawler McDonald too, fucking Lawler Condit, like some nasty shit.
Deals with all of that, all of the damage. Basically breaks 3 humans in a row in fights. And it's not until after all 3 of those fights that it kind of looks like he breaks down a little bit.
Wait. For the fucking Matt Brown fight.
Okay, Matt Brown, Hendricks,
McDonald,
Condit. All 4 of those guys looking like a shadow of themselves after that fight. And it's only after the 4th one for him in a row that his chin finally goes. And yet he still has terrific performances and excellent fights. Not all winners. But even post that, the fight against RDA, the fight against Cowboy Cerrone, it doesn't go well for him against Ben Askren, but he looked awesome in that fight up until the early kind of submission call. Has a fucking great fight with Nick Diaz for the 2nd time. Has an absolute war with Barberena, doesn't win it, but fucking goes for it like the old Robbie in that fight. Terrific fight. And then he gets to walk away from this one almost a little sad, I think. Because you could see afterwards there's the elation of I got a first round knockout, and then it's I thought I was going to get more than 38 seconds.
I don't know,
and then all the emotion sinks in.
He did say though, like the retirement decision's like pretty fucking easy.
But you would have thought, I think you think in that moment, my last fight, you probably think I'm getting a few minutes. You know what I mean? You'd think it's going to be more than 38 seconds. And it's 38 seconds for the best of reasons.
I don't know, man. I think he'd take those 38. I think he's fine with it.
Nico Price fought poorly. You can't stay in that clinch against Robbie. That's fucking suicide.
Not overwhelmed by the moment, or not enough respect until after the fight. But yeah, you know, Nico is as Nico does.
The montage was perfect. The interview was perfect. It was weird seeing Robbie Lawler get emotional like that. That was very weird, but I appreciated it. And it was awesome, man. If only every fighter could go out like that. And then he gets backstage. Apparently he goes straight up to Dana White. I don't know, man. I look pretty good in there. Maybe I can get one more one day. It's like, you're retired. It's done. Trust me. Walk away now. It will never get better.
Alright, so the other first round knockouts. What were your favourites?
I really liked Denise Gomes. Because Yasmin Yaragui was a huge prospect. And Denise Gomes just went at her like she didn't belong.
She's kind of ran through her a little bit. It was a very clean shot. And nice follow-ups.
Very nice. Bo Nichols was impressive because you're just thinking, okay, you're up against a guy who's got a puncher's shot and looks like he has got some heavy hands. Surely you're going to wrestle him. No, you're just going to absolutely stand there, find your distance.
We had that first shot stuffed and, he didn't really blink. No. It was like, fine, I'll set out with the hands a little bit, but it didn't even come down to that. It was just like, alright, you're going to come in like that. Okay, I'll just count it here and there. And I think we've kind of touched on this in the cold open already, right?
I think we did.
Yeah.
I think we did. He's a little small as well, Val Woodburn, I'd say. I know you're not going to be the biggest guy at middleweight if you can take the fight on 2 days' notice, but just in terms of his framing, it looked like it was going to be a rough night for him. Which takes away from the knockout just a tinge. Just a tinge. But you can only beat what's in front of you.
Well, he had to be one of the biggest favourites in MMA history. It was just...
I think he was the biggest favourite in MMA history.
So, you get what you give him.
I put €10 on Val Woodburn.
Good for you.
Well, like you say, biggest favourite in MMA history.
Ten's a lot.
Biggest underdog in MMA history. It's unlikely.
It's
but
unlikely.
Fuck it, 34-1. I'm going to put a bet on that. No one's a 34-1. No one's a 34-1. Everyone's got more than a 1 in 34 chance of winning a fight if they're both pros.
I think I would have gone 5 or 1.
That would have been more
with
sensible.
Pantoja and Volk.
It's all good. I made all my money back because I put €5 on Lawler to win, and I put €10 on Duplessis to win by finish. So that helped.
All's
That
well that
helped.
ends well.
Aguilar, that was very impressive.
Yep.
That was probably the
beautiful round.
cleanest. 17 seconds in, one punch,
Just
timed it perfectly.
Great overhand, just coming down straight over the chops. Don't see a lot of sort of one shot kind of knockouts really at that weight class. That's essentially what it was. Beautiful.
Other moments from the prelims. Mennefield Cruz.
Good fight.
Good fight.
Good fight from Mennefield.
Very good performance from Mennefield. Looks like Crute might have retired.
Well, I mean, how much money can you make fighting in smaller organisations with that records, with that market? He's just not there, you know. He's not where he needs to be to compete in this division. Probably the smartest thing to do.
It's a hard sport if you're not gifted in certain areas. And he's a good fighter, Crute, but he's not good enough in any one area that makes you think
He's going to make more money doing just about anything else.
this is true. And take less brain damage.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly it can go wrong though. Like you go back to the Jamal Hill fight, which wasn't that long ago. And that was talked about 2 prospects and which one's going to take that jump. I think both had like one had 1 defeat, the other one had 2 defeats. Jamal Hill flattens him in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think Hill was coming off the Craig defeat. Was that?
Yeah. I think Crute was coming off maybe the Anthony Smith defeat.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grill sport. Good wins for Victor Petrino against Prachniau.
Yep.
I actually would have favoured Prachniau in that, but Petrino gets it done. What was the other one? Ribovic, opening fight of the card against Camwella Kirk. That was a fucking great fight.
That was a great fight. There was also the Tatsuro Tara fight.
He got tested a little bit.
Yeah, stand-up's not great, but I did like the way he tried to mix things up a bit. Once he gets him down to the ground, though, it's just a different game.
It is, but it's kind of nice to see that he's human.
Oh yeah, like I always knew, like as elite as his ground game was, eventually he'd get pinned by like a really good wrestler, or he'd get fucked up in the stand-up. So, you know, he's very very young though, and a lot of aggression throughout that fight.
No, good win. And good win for Cameron Simon.
Yeah.
He managed to get a win without any eye pokes, grabs, bull shots, illegal, no points deducted, no fouls.
Clean.
I'd say this card's about a 9.5 out of 10.
Ah, it was fucking great. Just the fucking crowd.
That's what it is. And I'm more excited about 291. 291, I said this before, I feel like this was the card of prestige, and 291 is just like a bunch of people were given too much alcohol and cocaine before they did the matchmaking. They're just like, but dude, what if Liskarov fights Costa, and fuck it, we'll do Poatan against Blahovic, and then BMF 2, and fucking Bobby Green versus Tony Ferguson. Fuck it, why not?
It is a little like 80s action movie. I'm excited for it.
It's going to be fun. We got some other cards until then. Varying degrees of quality.
Well, next week's not like an awful card.
Yeah.
It's just that it's like after 290, I could really you can't really sandbag me with home against Silva.
Buena Silva.
There's
Saraya versus Park Jun-young.
yeah,
A co-main
love
event.
me some iron title, but still.
Harris versus Parisian. Chelsea C. Handler versus Norman Dumont. Ottoman Zaitar. I mean, that might be a fun fight. Terence McKinney might be fun.
Yeah. T-Rex always
I'm
worth
gonna be
tuning
honest,
in for.
That's a card that feels like a bit of work, dude.
Ha.
Some cards feel like work. I feel like that card's going to feel like work.
Yeah, if we had to do picks on that one still, I'd be a little bit like, for fuck's sake. As it is, just watching it, I'll be fine. It's just, it's going to feel like a bit of a hangover after this weekend's action.
And then I got to be honest, I'm not overly impressed with UFC London this year. Not their best showing. Not their best showing. When we were being teased with, oh, this might be a pay-per-view in London with Leon fighting Colby, and now we're getting Tom Aspinall back, great, against Marcin Tybura.
It's the bounce back fight I wanted.
It's a great fight, bounce back fight, but it's not a competitive fight.
Marcin Tybura, don't sleep on him. He's a great fighter. This is a good fight. I understand completely what you're saying, but this is. I think I actually picked Tybura as my bounce back of choice for Aspinall when I said that I wanted to see him come in against someone decent, but not like fucking insane. Someone that he should, on his day, just kind of run through.
You know, it's not that there won't be good fights on that, but it's not their best. I mean, I just think a couple of weeks where it's not going to be as hot shit, but I can deal with it. I can definitely deal with it when I get told.
Coming.
When I get told that in November I'm getting Stipe versus Jones at Madison Square Gardens, I'm pretty happy. When I get told I'm getting Grasso versus Shevchenko 2 on the same card as Shavkat versus Gastelum at welterweight, and it's a non-pay-per-view, which affects me in no way, shape or form, but for you Americans out there, I appreciate that you get to watch some title fights without having to pay money. Although, is it not a bit of a bitch that what might prove to be Grasso's only title defence she doesn't get those sweet, sweet pay-per-view points for?
I would... Yeah, no, it's... Yeah. They've done it before as well. I think RDA's first title fight was a fight night.
It was
title
indeed.
defense. Fuck them though.
Is what it is.
And there's a slim slither of hope that they're going to fudge McGregor into a December fight with Chandler.
I hope they don't do that. Because I know this isn't a real sport, but there's still so many things that I'd like to be in place that make me find it easier to believe it's a real sport.
It's just, if someone's going to like fucking smash McGregor truly into irrelevance, I'd love it to be a guy like Chandler.
It would be fun. He's going to go for it. Him and Drickus have exactly the same thing in common. If they get the fight that they're hoping for, they are going to go after that motherfucker.
Yep.
And that's going to be entertaining. Jones versus Stipe. The more I think about this fight, the more I think this is going to be a really easy fight for John Jones.
Don't think about it.
Grasso versus Shevchenko 2. Can she repeat the magic?
Maybe. Possibly. I mean, I don't see why not, you know? I don't think so, but I don't see why not.
Has Gastelum picked the wrong opponent?
Absolutely. At the same time, though, with where his career's at and how little faith Dana has in him making 170 and at this stage of his career, you got to swing for the fucking fences. If there's someone that kind of matches, well, you know, there's way better fights for him. But look, it's just a good chance to derail a hype train and try and jump straight in there, you know. Basically do the reverse of what Till did to him when he went up to 185.
Nice. Did you see that Izzy and Jones are friends now?
I've heard about it. I haven't looked at it. What is there to this?
I've seen the video. They hug
Best friends?
and grapple and shit, but in a friendly way. Apparently the beef is now squashed.
I just find it so hard to like John Jones.
I
Fuck
know.
that guy.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we call it a day?
Nah, you know, pretty baked. I think we're good.
Perfect. Guys, if you're still watching this far, we thank you for it. If you would like to see more of us talking about fights, we will be back next week.
With Miguel.
With Miguel. Back to a threesome. Although we do have to figure out how to shoot it because we've got a nice setup for 2. And we haven't quite got the lighting and all the rest figured for 3.
It's in a third chair.
I think a third chair there would be the correct supposition. But we will work on it. Guys, enjoy. Enjoy? What am I saying? I'm getting too stoned. There are fights this weekend. We will watch them. We don't expect you to. These fights are hard work. We will be back next week to talk about those fights.
Yeah.
But in that podcast next week, we will also talk about fights that are happening in the future the week after. So even if you haven't watched these fights, which we wouldn't blame you for, because, well, Holly Holm versus Silver is a main event, you can still hear us talk about some other shit. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Concise.
I know.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.